What is it that you think people say that they don't mean to say that's really that can be hurtful or painful? I know people try to comfort you in all kinds of different ways. They say all kinds of different things with great intentions. Yeah. I don't think their intentions are ever to get rid of you or dismiss you or to disregard your pain or what you're going through, the struggle. But are there common things that people say that you're just like, man, I just really wish I never heard anybody say this ever again?
Well, I mean, I think in general, people don't know how to have this conversation. And so...
Which is part of why we started the blog, right? Is to educate people, like, how do you interact with friends or family that are going through these issues?
And like you said, like, no one starts with an intention to hurt you, but people are also very uncomfortable with other people's pain. And so, like, I want to fix it.
Yeah.
So, generally, any comment that starts with a just, it's like, well, just do this. Like, have you prayed about this? Like, no. What?
Just trust God.
Yeah. Like, that's it? That's all I have to do?
That's what we've been doing wrong this whole time.
Yeah, shoot.
If only somebody had told us that a couple years ago.
Yeah. You mean I should have been praying about having kids? I can't imagine, right?
Yeah. Give it to God. God's got
just
a plan.
Stop trying, right? Like, it'll happen when you stop trying. Yep.
Yeah. Like, we've been trying long enough that we've also had times of not trying.
Yeah.
And
And I mean, there's have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? It's honestly, if I'm in a season of infertility, you're not going to think of anything I haven't thought of, right? Like, everything from what position we should be in to African Yohimbe roots to, like, all of the different supplements that exist in the world, right? Like, you can buy crap on Amazon for days that they, says that they'll increase your sperm count or whatever.
Right.
We've looked at all those things.
Have you thought about adoption? Have you thought about fostering? What?
Yeah.
What is that?
Wow. Really? Yeah. So,
and sometimes people are probably just trying to make conversation.
They are, and it's an awkward topic.
They don't know how to say.
Yeah.
They don't know what to ask or what's okay or I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, there's times where stuff comes out, right? Like, you say something that you mean in jest, and it's painful for somebody else to hear, right? Things like, oh, you count yourself lucky you don't have kids, right? Like, they may not even know the situation, or they know the situation, and in the moment, they're not cognizant of what's being said. And that's happened to us.
Yeah.
And
multiple times.
And a lot of those people, like, I'd say probably 50-50 of those people reach out immediately and go, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry."
That's what I said. Yeah.
Or a friend said, "Hey, you're an idiot. Why did you say that?"
Yeah.
And then they call us and they're like, "We're really sorry. We didn't mean to upset you." And then, the other 50%, like, just go about their business because they don't even realize.
Yes.
Because it's no different than if I was like, having a bad day at work and I'm like, just kill me now. Like, and meanwhile, somebody's dealing with a dead sister or parent or, like, you just say that and you don't think about the impact it has. So again, that kind of goes back to the being empathetic of other people's stories and their seasons. And, I'd say the other things that people say that probably are not super helpful are, well, maybe this is just this is God's plan. Just follow God's plan. And it's like, I get that, right? It is God's plan, I'm sure, or a portion of his plan. Yeah. But in the moment, like, that's not comforting. Yeah. At least not for me.
No. I had a thought. Shoot.
Lost it.
It's gone.
It was something else that people say.
Yep. I think the hard part is I feel like you get a black and white kind of situation with this. Either people really want to make you feel included in some of their experiences, so they'll share like, oh, my pregnancy is really hard, and tell you all of the ways they're struggling with that, or like how easy it was, or how they'll want to keep you in the loop because they don't want you to feel left out. But then there are people who totally shut you out because they don't want to be insensitive. And so it's one of those, like, maybe have a little bit more discretion when you're sharing about all the things about being pregnant, because I love to be pregnant. But
and you'll celebrate it.
Yeah.
When you are. I mean, you'll shout it from the rooftops probably like anybody else. And
And that's the other thing is we've had to kind of remind ourselves regularly, like those people, again, are not trying to be insensitive, right? Like when we've been around our friends that are pregnant and they complain about how hot it is in the summer to be pregnant, or how much their back hurts or their feet hurt, or how they can't get comfortable at night. Like, they don't mean that to be painful, right, for us. They're just trying to share their life with us, and that's important. And so, like, on the flip side, like, one, having discretion as somebody that is pregnant and you're around somebody that can't get pregnant is great. On the other side, as people that can't have kids, like, we also need to show grace to people that they shouldn't have to, like, censor their lives for us, right? Like, we all live in community. Let's just make sure we're aware of everybody's feelings and navigate life together and show grace when people mess up, even when we mess up, right? There's times we've handled situations with friends or family in ways that we probably could have done better.
Yeah.
Out of our pain. And you know, like, we need to own that and apologize for that. And we hope that those people will show us grace and also apologize for where maybe they messed up, right? Like,
I mean,
it's a two-way street.
cynicism can happen so easily through so many avenues, but certainly this one, I mean, being cynical about, you know, any kind of child rearing type of stuff, or any kind of comment somebody makes that it's like, yeah, their season is bringing a different frustration than the frustration you have, and they want to share their life, and they're, you know, it is hard to walk on eggshells around those kinds of conversations.
So good things to say or do.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you walk? You know, if somebody's dealing with infertility, if they're on some kind of adoption or IVF journey or fostering or anything where, you know, they're working towards a goal, how do people walk alongside you?
So
What are helpful?
I think Brad has had a lot of good people, like, reach out to him and just be like, if you need to scream, cry, like, break things.
Shoot things, like, if you know, like, guy stuff, right? Like, you want to go blow something up, like, let's go find a field to blow something up, you know, like, within reason.
Well,
but
let the record show, I would actually like to blow things up, too. So.
But, I mean, we won't get into all that. We also might get Chris kicked off of YouTube here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not with them.
But, I mean, like, do you need to, you know, go into the woods, like, and spend time away? I have been very fortunate in having my guys just, like, reach out and say, what do you need? Tell me what it is you need. And that's hard, right? Because especially for men, like, we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so instead of saying, well, how are you doing or how are you feeling? They're like, what do you need me to do? Do you need to go play golf? Like, do you need to go drink a beer? What is it you need to do that will take your mind off this to help you process? So that has been incredibly helpful for me.
Well, you had even mentioned too, though, sometimes you don't know. You don't
and
know
you
the
don't,
answer. It's
right?
just like, there's not really anything to do.
And
right?
sometimes there's not. But there are other ways, like, even if you don't know, there's, like, especially, like, right after we've had failed transfers, people have shown up with things that we have to have, like meals.
Toilet paper.
You know, it's crazy when someone dies in your family. There is people bring food and people kind of, like, come around you, and there's some actual thing that happens, like a funeral. And with embryos, like, we believe that that life starts at conception. So technically, like, we've had life, and so when that life doesn't become a human being with us, there's, like, a whole new grief. You don't know how to process it. It's not like we can have an embryo funeral. It's not like we have all these memories stocked up, but all these hopes and dreams, like another death. And so doing something like bringing food over, or, like, taking something off the plate of somebody going through that.
I mean, we've had
really
people mow our yard. Like, we had this to this day. I think it'll forever make me laugh. But one of our really good friends, like, she wanted to drop off cookies, but she didn't want to bother us or make us feel like we had to talk about it. So she literally snuck up our driveway, hid the cookies, like, by the back door, and then ran down. We didn't even know she came to the house until she texted us, like, a few hours later. Was like, hey, there's cookies at your back door, right? So like finding ways to love people where they are, but not make them feel like they have to rehash or talk about it, can be incredibly helpful. I will also say, though, that doesn't mean, and I think this was something that Ronni really appreciated from her friends, was like hey, how are you doing with this?
Yeah.
Like, how are you feeling? How do you feel about God? How do you feel about Brad? How do you feel about life? Yeah. Right? Like, asking somebody how they're doing and attentively listening,
setting
like
a space for that.
Truly caring about what they have to say is
so
a really big deal.
So you do appreciate when people ask.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, because I could see it being sort of the other way. Like, I just really don't want to talk about this.
Well,
I guess it depends on personality.
I mean, you
right?
can ask
or the day, maybe.
Yeah.
Hey, this is not a day I want to talk about this. Yeah, like some days are worse than others. Some weeks or months are probably worse.
And I've had that conversation, right? Like somebody I've played golf with, and I've been like, "Hey, today we are not talking about IVF. I don't want to go there, right?" And they're like, "Okay, let's just talk about golf." Like, okay, perfect.
But it's also like there is a good balance of question. Like, are you ready to hear the answer? Like, you know, we often pass each other and are like, "Hey, how's it going? Great, see you later." If I'm like, "No, today really sucked with IVF," but you're already walking away, like that doesn't set the stage well.
Set space, right?